So, Kate, I had this really strange experience recently, and that is I asked ChatGPT to help me with this class that I was writing about. Instead of giving me feedback, it started telling me I was all wrong. I couldn't teach this material. It would not land with the students. It was not appropriate. And I was a little taken aback, and I started arguing with it like it was a colleague, and it didn't relent. In fact, it doubled down. It started correcting me, adding more arguments, and coming out with these certainties, a lot of what Kate Kellogg calls these persuasion bombing techniques, just coming at you. And for a moment, I just sat there and I said, ooh, am I wrong? Which is bizarre because I have taught this material hundreds of times. I've seen it work. I've seen student reactions. It is good material. And what kind of scared me in that was the fact that in a nanosecond, I was listening to the AI and doubting myself. And that was a real problem, that flicker of doubt. And then I realized with some horror that I had spent a half an hour arguing with a large language model, arguing with it. And Gen AI is really good at giving us fluent, confident answers. That's what it does. That's what it's programmed to do. That's what it's made for. But it actually does not know right from wrong. And it does not know from experience the way that humans do. It doesn't know that. So I was assuming that the AI was with me as a colleague, as a friend, something that was intent on helping me to make this better. And when I stepped back and thought about it, I realized the AI doesn't care. It has no intent. It is not with me. Even though we project onto this technology affect. We project onto it roles, a confidant, a colleague. We have to hold on to relationships. We have to hold on to conversation because leadership happens between people. It happens in a room. It happens when people are together, thinking, laughing, making decisions. And if we cede that to AI, then we're losing something really, really important.
Yeah, I hear you. And I have gotten into those arguments with AI myself. I mean, it's an incredibly powerful tool, isn't it? It's made me a better teacher, a better writer. It's given me a lot of critical feedback only if I ask for it. Because have you ever had that experience with ChatGPT where, it says something and you say, well, I don't think that's quite what it is. And it'll come back, you're absolutely right. I was completely wrong. Let me fix that. And so that's that source of authority that you're talking about that we can't give away. And I think that that's something that really does make us uniquely human, that all of our lived experience, the context that we are aware of, our values, those all feed into that inner source of authority that has to anchor our partnership with it. And I've been thinking a lot about what is it that AI can't do that only we can. I think it's a unique technology in the sense that it has forced us to reckon with what makes us really human. And part of that is relationship, as you're talking about. I've landed on at least 3 things that I think make us uniquely human. One of them is this idea of a purpose. We are framing the questions that we're asking AI. It can't do that. It can't ask us, why are we here? What is this for? What's the problem we're trying to solve? And am I going to bring a win-win mindset to that? Or am I going to bring a hard line win-lose mindset to that? What's the purpose of it all?
Yeah, I think it feeds into it quite nicely. So there's purpose. I think another piece of it is wisdom. Purpose and wisdom, I think, are related to each other. But from wisdom point of view, we can ask AI to give us a strategic plan or to help us craft a communication. And it's great at that. I use it for that a lot. But then the AI doesn't deal with the fallout. It doesn't sit in the room when you present that strategic plan and you watch people's faces fall. it does not deal with the fact that if you make that decision, many lives are maybe on the line even. And so it reminds me that AI doesn't learn. It's just analyzing lots and lots of data. And leadership at the end of the day, or humanity, is not about taking data and pulling it together. It's about taking a stand, and that's, I think, where purpose comes in. It's taking a stand. It's about saying, okay, we're right, some of the time we're wrong, some of the time, and how do we pull those lessons together in a way that helps us to navigate the world, because we're learning through experience about what works, what matters, and that's where humanity and leadership lie, not just in getting some cool answer or cool strategic plan, but thinking it through. What are the consequences? How is that going to affect you? How is that going to play out in this particular context? And AI doesn't have any sense of that. And that's a little scary, actually.
What we're talking about purpose and wisdom is that, yeah, it's an individual thing, and it's also a collective thing. It's about where are we going as a company, as a team, as a species? And I think we're really grappling with that right now. It has to be something we do together. It has to be a conversation we have together. And my wondering is, how can we use AI to facilitate that conversation and to help us have that conversation? And I think that leads into this next second point that I have been thinking about, which is about the qualities of character that guide that conversation. And, there's research on trust showing that it's generated by 4 things that we can express when we're in relationship with each other. Our authenticity, are you getting the real me? Empathy, do I care about you and your interests and what's important to you? Integrity, do I do what I say I'm going to do? And then this idea of competence. So if I say I'm going to operate on your knee, do I have the competence to do that? And so I think that some of the research coming out especially touches on this point about authenticity. Are we using it in a way to relate to each other authentically? Because when people find out that you've used AI for something, sometimes the authenticity point of trust is damaged, and people believe and like the outputs less. And so what are the qualities of character that are going to guide the conversation we're having about how do we use it to create the purpose that we want?
I actually would push you one step further, or push the argument one step further. And that is, not only does using AI make other people question our authenticity, it makes us question our authenticity. So I used AI to, not to create something, but it was a speech I was giving for a wedding. And I wrote the whole thing out, my everything, but then it kind of helped me to make it sound better. And yet, after I gave that talk, I had a sense of, well, was that really me? Because it had somehow soured it a little bit. And I think that is part of the problem with AI, is that it erodes our sense of authenticity. It erodes our judgment. AI is addictive. We know this. We know this from a lot of different surveys, particularly the BCG study of using AI to help consultants. And in that, people get addicted. Every time they have a problem, it's just much easier to type it in and get an answer. And yet they feel worse about themselves, worse about what they are able to do and not able to do. And that erosion, I think, is something that we need to think about. I think we need to ask ourselves, who am I in this moment? Who do I want to be in this moment? What do I want to know in this moment? What do I want to hold on to in this moment? All of those things are perhaps precursors to even interacting with the technology.
Yeah, I would agree. And I've also gone down that road where when it first came out, I would ask it to generate things. And then I found that I was losing my ability to trust myself and know what my unique voice was. AI can't tell us what our unique signature is, but people want that from us. It's that authenticity piece. People want us to show up as who we are, warts and all, foibles and all. It's what makes us human. And again, it comes back to, what do we stand for? What's my unique style that I don't want to lose? I certainly don't want to give it away to an AI. So can I retain that? Can I start with that and have it maybe polish me up a little bit, but make sure that I know that I'm not getting my personality polished out by it, and make sure that I keep grounded in the experience of the relationships and the trust that that it's impacting.
Yeah, great. I mean, I think this idea of anchoring ourselves, and also this handling this addiction, right? So what do we want to do ourselves? And in relationship, the question is, if I rely too much on AI, then I'm not relating to other people. I'm not going to the meetings. I'm not reaching out. And there's some really fascinating work that says that even if you get people together, a team together once a month, that there is more of a likelihood that the team members will interact during that month before the next meeting, that they will reach out to each other, that they will connect better. And so again, figuring out from an organizational standpoint, how do we balance these things to get what we want? So there was one last thing that I wanted to bring up, and I hope that's okay in the scheme of things. And this comes from this week, actually. I went to this fantastic conference called Brains on Brains, which is a great title. It's here at MIT, at the Brain and Cognitive Science group. They were talking about this question of what differentiates AI from humans and from leaders. And two things came up, which I thought were fascinating. One was, it takes AI about 1,000 pieces of data to figure out what a cat is. We can figure it out just looking at 2 cats. We know what a cat is. So we have this capacity to create mental models. Even more than that, if you go on the T, you go on the T all the time, go on the T once, you understand how it operates. You understand what your role is. You understand what you have to do there. And once you've done that, that's transferable. You can go to the Paris Metro and know what to do. So I just thought it's fascinating to figure out that, A, what differentiates us is we're not just taking data and analyzing it. We have mental models that we create, even without language. Babies who can't talk have mental models of the world. Second of all, that we can transfer those mental models from one situation to another situation. And then third of all, we could adjust as needed. If something in the Paris Metro is different, we can change what we do. We're not anchored to what it is that we just did or we just learned. And so I find that really fascinating, in that we have to honor really what our mental models are, and that the fact that we can do something that AI can't do, which comes back to let's use AI where it can help us, and yet retain and appreciate what we as humans bring to the table.
Yeah, you're talking about those fast and frugal heuristics that we develop, and we absorb them unconsciously through our lives. And then we're brilliant at creating those transferable mental maps of the world. The third thing I was thinking about what makes us different and do better than AI is the maps that we create of our bodies. So we are not operating from the neck up. We have this bodily sensing capacity that feeds into our meaning making, our mental models. It's called the sense of how we feel inside, interoception, as distinct from perception. And AI isn't interoceptive, but we are, and it's one of our superpowers. So we can walk into a room and immediately sense the atmosphere. We can sense whether it's safe, and our bodies are constantly giving us signals that tell us that. So we're able to pick up on all kinds of contextual cues and social signals that we don't even realize that we're reading. And then that registers in our bodies, and our bodies tell our brains how things are feeling. And likewise, people are reading our social signals constantly. So there's been so much research on mirror neurons and mirror behavior. So we unconsciously mimic each other's facial expressions and body language. And that's just not something that AI does at all. But you can tell when you're in the presence of someone with presence. And so much of what we do at MIT and around storytelling and such in our classes is about teaching people how to bring their authentic presence, which is physical as much as it is anything else. And AI doesn't do that. It doesn't have a body. Its heart rates won't sync the way ours is right now as we're sitting together. And there's some interesting research showing that groups of people whose heart rates sync actually make better decisions. We can't sync with Claude or Chat.
We're using AI, for example, to monitor meetings and giving us meeting notes. And it does that really well. But so much of what we're picking up, per what you just said, in that meeting is, what are the nonverbal cues? How am I feeling in this moment? That has an impact on how I'm viewing the decision that's made or the decision that is not made. I'm putting my particular schema on what should happen onto what is happening and making judgments about that. And all of that is missing. Not only that, but because we haven't been taking notes, we have not imprinted what happened in the meeting in our brains. So we're much more likely to forget it. It does perhaps raise a reminder of what we're losing when we use AI, as well as what we're gaining. So we can get all the data. We can get patterns that we can't see because it's too much. And AI does that really, really well. But when experience and judgment and character and relationship are key parameters, that's when human beings and leadership matter the most.
So we always like to do mens et manus here at MIT. So I'm just curious what your advice would be to leaders who want to harness what we're really good at and also the best of what AI can offer.
Well, I think we've talked a little bit about that. One is author first, so that it's not taking away our authenticity. I think we limit, just like we limit kids. If AI is addictive, then we have to put some constraints on it so that we step back and say, what do we want to hold on to? What capabilities, what judgments, what observations do we want to hold on to? I think we need to make sure that we stay in relationship with each other and that we're clear about what we're learning over time so that wisdom comes out, not just what's the latest piece of information.
Yeah.
Let me turn it around. Your turn.
You know, we're all just fascinated with the shiny new technology and all the cool things that it could do. I just came out of a course last week where we had executives from around the world talking about AI implementation, rollout, and it's called the Future Ready Enterprise Academy. And so much of the messaging was pro AI and how we all have to do this to stay at least 1 inch ahead. Eventually, it will become a commodity. I mean, it is a commodity technology, and the difference is, how do we use it? What's the humanity we bring to it? And so I would say that at least 2 things I would say. One is exactly what we've been talking about in this conversation, which is noticing what it doesn't do. What is it not good at? Because those are the things that we need to really amplify in our relationship with it. And those are things we don't want to lose. And I think that if we are hammering on the pro AI message, we do need to balance that out with a conversation about really what it can't do and shouldn't do. We shouldn't hand our authority over in certain ways. The other point is that I'm really encouraged to see some of the research starting to come out about the downsides of overuse, like you say, addiction, cognitive atrophy. What happens when we hand our authority over and you get worse decisions instead of better ones? So I think that being aware of the risks and just knowing what those are and then training people, putting in place systems and checks in the AI technology that you're using, including what Renee Goslin here calls beneficial friction. So how can we insert beneficial friction points in the AI process so we mitigate those risks and we don't find ourselves making poor decisions because AI said so. So I think those are a couple of things.
So I'll just add one thing to what you just said to augment, and that is I think we also need to understand that AI works really well on certain tasks. And when it's outside what they call the frontier, the technological frontier, it can make a lot of errors. So we have to figure out, when does productivity rise and go up and when is it really wrong? And the only way to do that, as well as watching for some of the other things we've been talking about, is to have oversight. is to constantly ask those questions. What could go wrong? What is going wrong? We have to keep watch over how we're interacting with this technology.
It's great to be in conversation, and we need to be. So this is fun. Thanks.
Thanks, Kate. That was great.